There we go.
You
Recording in
go.
prog. Did you hear it?
Yes, I heard it.
Oh, goody. Now I gotta, I'm not ready to do anything yet, but I will be soon. As soon as my computer does what I want it to do, which is, and it's not doing what I want it to do. Come on, do what I want you to do, computer. There we go. Thank you. Okay, snap, please. There we go. All right, we're ready to go. So,
Oh, hi,
good.
Stephen. You go
Hi,
ahead.
Ariel. It's so good to be here with you today. Maybe we should introduce ourselves. Who are
Yes,
you?
I'm Ariel Warren. I'm a diabetes educator and a dietitian, and I've had type 1 diabetes for 30 years. This month is 30 years of diabetes. Tell me a
Happy
little,
birthday to you.
right?
Happy birthday to you.
It's always how are you supposed to acknowledge the diagnosis? I know there's a diaversary. My really bad joke used to be, every diaversary, I just eat a big piece of cake, but only if you have diabetes do you know how terrible that joke is.
And so, and you are one of my diabetic coaches. You are part of my diabetic team. I never thought I'd say I have a diabetic team. Did you ever think you'd hear someone say, I have a diabetic team?
It takes a team.
Yeah,
Diabetes is confusing, and sometimes you just need somebody that you can make jokes with about how
I,
ridiculous diabetes can be.
I agree. And so you are one of my diabetic coaches. My name is Stephen Wood. I am a professional magician, and I've had type 1 diabetes going on about 8 months now. Let's see, December, January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, going on 8 months because it was between, yeah, 8 months. I was right. And I've had been diagnosed with type 1 diabetes for 8 months. Probably had it for longer than 8 months because they originally diagnosed me type 2 about 6.5 years ago. So that gives people an idea of who you are and who I am.
Mhm.
Now, what are we doing here, Ariel?
So I appreciate your time, Stephen, because we spend a lot of time together. You also spend a lot of time with our other dietitian, and a lot of people don't really know what a diabetes educator is and how that can be helpful as part of their diabetes education team. So I appreciate your time and sharing your experience with your
What
what
are
your
we
experience
doing
has
here,
been so far.
Ariel? What are we
But what are
doing
we
here?
doing?
Yes.
We are having an interview and we are talking
Wrong.
about
Wrong. That's not what we're doing here right now.
what are we doing?
What are we doing? Well, we're going to have an interview, folks, eventually, but right now we're going to do something a little different. Are you ready?
I don't know if I'm ready. What is this? What are we doing? Oh, a
Well,
magic show.
exactly. Let me just get rid of my background for a moment. Come on. Again, I want it to do what I want it to do. That's not what I want. Okay, folks, what you're seeing right now is um, the all the interesting stuff we've had go on today already. No, that's not what I want. Virtual background. Come on. Oh, there we go. Yeah. Yes. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take a look at my profession for a second. So, Ariel, what do I do for a living?
You're a magician.
That's right. And what do you see in my hands?
I see a whole bunch of cards with
Yep.
different letters.
Do you know that my education is not magic? If you were to look on my education, it wouldn't say Stephen Wood Magician. My education is actually, I have a background in psychology. I have a bachelor's in psychology. I have the equivalent of a master's in music. Don't ask. That's a long story of itself. But there's something in psychology called mental selection, mental preference. And we're going to do that right now. We're going to talk about mental preference. Now, when we say mental preference, you and I are the two most mental people here. So I think we're going to be the ones we'll deal with. So as you can see, I have a deck full of alphabet cards. What I'm going to do is just spread them out. You just tell me when to stop.
Stop.
Okay, now if we were actually in the same room together, you would do this yourself. You pull some cards. Now you can see that they're all there. Do me a favor. Here, let's try this. I'm gonna I'm gonna start turning them over, okay, and mixing them up. It's gonna be like I'm a kid. Here, I'll just put them down here. So let's mix them up and get them all mixed up. And you can tell me when to stop. You can tell me if you want me to keep mixing them up. It's up to you. What do you want me to do? You want to keep mixing them up or
And
not?
nope, we're good. We'll stop
Okay,
here.
we're good. All right. So here's what we're going to do. Okay. I am going to, you're going to be making all of the decisions. Okay. So I'm going to take these first two cards. And what I want you to do is decide, do you want me to leave them this way or turn them over? This way
Turn
or
them
that way?
over. You're
Turn them over. Okay. We'll take two more. Turn them over or leave them or this way.
turn them over.
Turn them over. Okay. Two more. This way
And
or this way?
turn them over.
Turn this way?
Yes.
Okay. Uh, two more. This way or this way?
Uh, the other way.
This way? Okay.
Yes.
So let's see. We'll take four. Do you want four this way or that way?
That way.
That way? Okay. That's cool. And I'll tell you what. Let me see. How many do we got here? Hold on. Let me see. Do we have any more? Oh yeah, we've got like four more. Okay. Yeah, four more. So this way or that way?
That way.
That way? Okay. Now, here's what I would be having you do this if you were in the room with me. I'm just going to deal cards out into two piles, one after another. And if you were here, you would be doing this with me. I would not be touching the cards. It would be all on you. Now, you want me to take the right pile and turn it over on the left pile? The left pile, turn it over on the right.
Left pile turned over on the right.
All right. Now, would you agree that you've made as many of the decisions as you could possibly make, considering we're in a Zoom room?
Yes.
You've decided how to mix them up. You've decided where they're going to go and everything, correct?
Yes.
So we're talking about mental selection. And mental selection, we want to find out what you think about the most. What in your mind would influence you the most? What is on your heart the most? And you notice you chose this. You have all these face up cards, but there's only four cards that are face down. Pull those out because I have a feeling those might be important. And I'm just going to pull them out and put them here. We'll get rid of the rest of the cards. Tell me if this means anything to you.
There you go. It's my
What
husband's
is it?
name.
Whose name is that?
My husband.
Your husband's name. So apparently we found out what is most on your mind and on your heart. Isn't that nice?
I am shocked. I don't know how you did that.
Well, what a coincidence. That means I do my job very well, doesn't it?
Yes, that does. You do a great job as a magician. That I don't have words. I have no idea how you did that.
Well, I tell you what, I can tell you that you may have no idea how I did that, but the things that you do, um, I was thinking about this before we get started. I was thinking about this because a couple of days ago I got a call from a possible client, and that client wanted to hire me for a birthday party in October. And it wasn't just for her, it was for her two sisters, her 50-year-old sister and her 40-year-old sister. And as we have been moving along over what's happened in the last couple of weeks here in the United States, sometimes all of the problems might seem to be overwhelming. But this woman's name was Hope. And whether or not you know it, not only do we need hope right now, I want to say at the beginning of this, something that you and your team does is you give type 1 diabetics hope. Hope that they can hope as long they're going to have to put in the work, but hope that that they'll learn how to take care of themselves. They'll learn how to eat. They'll learn how to be healthy, even though they're pumping their bodies full of insulin because they have to imitate. They have to imitate and learn to think like a pancreas. But I just wanted to say that y'all up front, y'all give hope, and that's something that's sorely needed in this world right now.
I appreciate your words. It's been such a pleasure getting to know you and your personality and how you see things and your sense of humor. And we love working with you.
Thank you.
I would, just for people listening, tell us a little bit about yourself and your experience with diabetes before we started working with. How were you? Tell us about your diagnosis story.
So my diagnosis story is over a 7 year time period, and it's even farther than that. First off, my dad was diagnosed as a type 1 diabetic early in his life, but my dad, when he was diagnosed as a type 1 diabetic, they didn't. We didn't have the things. We didn't have pumps. We didn't have CGMs. So I was talking to my sister about him a couple of days ago, and she said basically all he did was gave himself shots, and then what's that word we like to use, hope and pray. um uh, yeah, he gave himself shots, and he really didn't have the information we have. So I got to slowly, before I was even diagnosed as a diabetic, I got to slowly watch my dad die from complications due to diabetes. What fun that is. About 6.5 years ago, um I was feeling just funky, tired, just really, really off. And my wife encouraged me to go get some blood work done. Now, at that point in time, I was a needle phobe. I hated needles to the point where when I walked into the when I walked in the phlebotomist's office and they took the blood out of my arm, I threw up in a waste paper basket. And then when my doctor called me into his office the next day, and believe me, if a doctor calls you into the office the next day after a test, nothing good comes of it. Called me in the office. He said, "I'm diagnosing you with diabetes. You're going to need to take this pen home and take the shot. Start on shot therapy immediately." So there's more to that story that I'm not going to talk about, but I did that, and eventually I was bringing my blood sugars into control, and they decided that I was type 2 diabetic. In between December and January of this last year, I was in Vegas with my family. I now live in Texas. We used to live in California, moved out to Texas, and we were going back to Vegas, which we'd like to go to for shows and things, and then to California to see people. And in between December and January, as I was in one of the casinos, I started having vertigo, and I started throwing up. And went to the uh, went to the emergency room in Vegas, and they figured it was just a certain things going on. So they gave me medication for the vertigo, medication for throwing up. We drove to California, and when I got to California, I was throwing up black coffee grounds. Not that it was coffee grounds, but that's what I was throwing up. I don't drink coffee, but I was throwing up what looked like black coffee grounds. Took me to the emergency room again, and they diagnosed me in diabetic ketoacidosis. I was in the IR. I was in the urgent care, not the urgent care.
I see you.
I was in the ICU. Thank you, for 7 days, and while while in there, they diagnosed me type 1 diabetic, put me back on shots, and um, I came back to Texas with shots and needles and everything. Um, do you want me to go on? Keep going?
Well, tell us a little bit about your care at that time and going to a doctor and before we started working together. How was your management style of diabetes?
So when I got back to Texas, I was doing what I was told to do by the doctors in the IR in California, in the IR in the ICU in California. They gave me needles, they gave me insulin, and they said, okay, for every time you eat, you're going to give yourself 8 units of insulin. And so at the very beginning, I wasn't using insulin to cover my food. I was using my food to cover insulin. So if I had a small, I could wasn't going to have a smaller meal or a larger meal or snacks. I was told every time you eat, take 8 units of insulin, and then they gave me long-acting insulin to operate in the background. Now, so I was giving myself a shot every night of I think 24 grams of long-acting, and then I was giving myself 8 grams of short-acting and eating to fill all that up. And in so doing that, sometimes there's a couple of times when I had low episodes because I didn't understand at the time that it was my job to be my own best advocate and doctor for diabetes. So um, I was giving my, eventually I found out I was giving myself too much long acting insulin, and I was able to start backing that off. But
Mm.
um, in so doing that, it was I didn't find that out from my doctor. I found that out from us talking and you saying, "Look, here's the deal. If it's too much, you need to back it off." And then you
Mm.
gave me a dosage that you thought would be more appropriate, and I used that.
Mm.
And that then I talked to my doctor afterwards, and and let her know that we had done that. So it was something where I not only that I started learning to count carbs, so that I could give myself insulin to cover my carbs, not carbs to cover my insulin. And
Mm.
as strange as that sounds, that was something that really changed the way that I looked at what was going on. It wasn't completely accurate, and we eventually got there. But
Mm.
that's another thing where I that change in mind and shift of mindset really helped.
Thank you for sharing. And yes, looking at your total amount of insulin, you can determine a lot of times people have it's called feeding the insulin, where you're taking too much insulin and you're just trying to keep yourself from having these big lows. But we need to, what I did when we were working together, it was look at how much you're currently using, look at your fasting blood sugar when you wake up, how many carbs are you actually eating, and what is that doing to your blood sugar, and also the timing of your blood sugar, the timing of those spikes from eating. And I like to always just take the total amount of insulin and do a couple of calculations to get an idea. And then you always have to personalize it to the individual. So we found out with you, you needed significantly more aggressive carb ratio in the morning than you did for the remainder of the day. And then we were watching your fasting blood sugar to really titrate what you should be taking with the Tresiba. But now you're on Omnipod 5 and you have been doing exceptionally well with that. It's been a great system for you.
Can we go? Let me go a little bit farther because a little farther back because I guarantee you there are going to be type 1 diabetics who are going to sit there and hear everything you just said for the last minute and go, huh? So let me tell you the first thing, the first bit of practical advice that Ariel gave me. And it doesn't have anything to do with numbers or anything like that. Her practical advice was that you take enough insulin to cover eating healthy. You don't you take enough I want to say that again. You take enough insulin to cover eating healthy. So you want to be able to eat healthy, eat right, have good balanced meals, and then you take the insulin to cover those well-balanced meals. And then everything she's talking about, insulin to carb ratios are important. You're going to have to learn how much insulin you need to take to cover how many carbs you put into your system at different, maybe even at different times in the days. That maybe there may be a different number of carbs that you take, but all of that is is started by this idea of take the amount of insulin you need to cover healthy eating.
But we
I don't.
still like chocolate too, Stephen.
Oh, you're right, and we can do that too. But so one another thing that you've taught me to start at just do one thing right. You start doing one thing. So, for instance, the first thing I had to do was, I had to get my insulin to carb ratios right, and we did that. But then I needed to learn to count carbs correctly. And so, just so everybody else knows, once I learned how to count carbs correctly, I don't know if you remember this, Ariel, but I was still existing in the in a high range, and I was like, why am I doing that? And then a combination of of Ariel and Serene, who is someone who works with her, and another diabetes educator on the internet, I figured out that it wasn't just carbs that I had to deal with. It was carbs, protein, and fat. So I was able to build on my knowledge and use that building to better regulate and to better manage type 1 diabetes. So I wanted to bring that up as well.
Absolutely, because all macronutrients impact our blood sugar. And I love treats. I love a little chocolate, but understanding what a normal pancreas would do, that allows you so much more freedom to dose correctly and live a healthier, happier, higher quality of life.
Yes, ma'am, it does. It's and I don't. I want people to understand another thing. So if you were to look, here we go. If you were to look at my blood sugars and you would look at my what my blood sugars are like, if you get on the clarity with me for Dexcom G7, you would see boring blood sugars, and I'm very happy about that. But boring blood sugars take time to figure out, and I have a fantastic endocrinologist. I have no problems with her, but she sees me once every 3 to 4 months. And the adjustments that I have made, and in fact, the adjustments we made last week to to my insulin to carb ratios and different things, it can't be once every 3 to 4 months. So in working with you, Ariel, and working with Serene, I've been able to have someone who has more experience with me who can basically coach me in diabetes to help me to make good decisions, to help me to adjust things so that, like the last time I went to see my endocrinologist, my A1C was 5.7, and my endocrinologist said to me, that's a little dangerous. And I already knew what you told me, Ariel. You told me about the variable, my blood coefficient variable, and different things, so that I was able to point that out to her. She only sees my blood sugars once every 4 months. I was able to point that out to her and say, look, I've got this and this, and it's not dangerous. I'm not going dangerously low, and I'm not going up high. I'm keeping very stable. So the idea of working with a diabetic counselor such as Ariel, for anybody who wants to know, it's not just about it's not about just dealing with the endocrinologist once every 4 months. It's about having someone who can work with you, help you adjust things, who understands diabetes not only from a number standpoint, not only from a macro standpoint. Ariel, how long have you had diabetes?
This month is 30 years. I just had my fourth baby.
And I'm going to tell you, I didn't want you to say that. Darn it. I was going to tell a story, but I'm still going to tell a story. I don't know if you know the first thing that inspired me about your coaching. And I know the first thing that when I was first being started being coaching with you, um, first off, y'all, I got to tell you, above diabetes is very affordable. Another diabetic coach that I had before Ariel charged about 6 times what Ariel is able to charge, and there's no way I could have done that. But when I met Ariel, in my head, I said about hope. In my head, I had this idea that as a type 1 diabetic, I was going to have problems and I was going to die an early death. And within the first couple of months of working with Ariel, she said to me, I'm about to have my fourth child. And I said, wow. And she said, you know what the doctors told me? Listen to this, everyone. This will tell you just how much doctors know. You know what the doctors told me? They told me that I was never going to be able to have children. And now Ariel has four children. That was so inspiring to me. That told me right there that I had hope, that I was going to be able to manage this. That if I took this seriously and I learned about diabetes and I studied it and understood it, that I was going to have hope. This woman right here, they told her she would not have children, and she's had four. If I swore, it would be something else. It would be to tell the doctors to go away, because there are so many doctors who do not understand diabetes. They're trained endocrinologists and they don't have a clue they don't have a Parker's Brothers game to save their life because they don't understand what type 1 diabetes. Ariel understands type 1 diabetes. Ariel understands how it can affect you. And Ariel is a fantastic coach who, if you put your work in, you're going to have a better quality of life. She's had four children when they told her she wouldn't have any. That was the first thing that really inspired me about you, Ariel. The first thing that I have conscious memory of being inspired by you about.
Well, I appreciate you sharing. I we were told I think a lot of us have similar stories like that, and I did not have great blood sugar. I mean, the first 20 years of having diabetes, I didn't have a CGM. I was diagnosed when I was 4 years old. The pediatrician had told my mother, because I was so young when I was diagnosed, by the time I was able to have children, I would have done too much damage to my body that I would never be able to have kids. And I have had wonderful doctors throughout my experience, and it's being told that really it did negative it paralyzed me. I was terrified as a young girl, thinking I'd never be able to have kids of my own. I remember not playing with the little baby Barbies when I was a little kid because I thought, I know that I'll never be a mother. And that was wrecking for me as a young kid. And I had times, and I didn't even have a great A1C. Really, the first 15, 18 years of diabetes, no CGM. I ran off horseback riding for hours a day, had a breakfast of Lucky Charms, and would have pastaroni at dinner time, and did not know how much nutrition and exercise and sleep and stress all impact diabetes on every given day, every day. And it wasn't until I started going to college to become a dietitian and I met my now husband. We were going into yes, we were going
Jays,
into an endocrinology appointment. He was going with me and we were dating, and he had asked me what a normal A1C was. And I thought, "Oh, it's below 5.7, but nobody in the world with diabetes ever gets an A1C of 5.7 or less." And he said, "Oh, well, you're going to do that." And I thought, wow, that's so annoying. You don't know anything. I've had diabetes for so long. You think that I just don't care, and that's why I have my A1C where it's at. But honestly, having that support system and then being a dietitian and then continuing education and becoming a diabetes educator, uh, I have learned a lot on the personal side and combine it with what I have learned through schooling, because helping people with diabetes is my favorite thing to do in this world. And feeling very isolated as a young kid because I felt like nobody else understood me, it made me decide that I wanted to dedicate my professional life to helping other people with type 1. So that's why I started Above Diabetes, and we have educators, and we love working with people like you, Stephen, because there's things that we can do every day. And I remember you told me that you were a magician and that we just started working together. You told me about being a magician, and it terrified you thinking about going into work because you did not think that your blood sugar was stable enough, and you were worried about just moving around or what you were eating or how to dose. And I'm going to brag on Steven a little bit. He keeps his time in range at 99%. And I can tell you that 1% it's not him, it's a compression low. Or maybe he had a key lime pie for his birthday 2 weeks ago and it hit 181. But he is just a testament to hard work and looking at what you're eating and figuring out what works best for you. I personally, if I consider around 92%, that's my happy place. So he does an exceptional job. But there are some days that we can't. There are some days that it's just a stinker of a day and it is impossible to control every little variable. I read one time there's over 42 different variables at any given
Yeah.
moment that impact blood sugar. And so that's not to reduce anybody's effort and how much they've been through for their current time and range, but it helps when you have people understand and kind of help you strategize to help you improve your quality of life and have higher time and range. But
So
we appreciate you and
one
working with
thing,
you.
so Ariel is right. You have to put the work in. You have to, uh, and I mean no disrespect to anybody on my diabetic team. I have done more research outside of these meetings than you probably can, people probably know. I am now on the Omnipod 5 and I'm using the G7. When I first heard about pumps from my endocrinologist, she said, let's just wait about 6 months and make sure you've got management right. And I heard that and I said, screw that. No, excuse me, forget that. I'm not going to do that. I want to get on a pump. And so I started doing research and I was talking to Ariel and I was talking to Serene and I was figuring out, okay, this is what I want to do. And so with their help, I kind of forced my endocrinologist because I called I called Insulet and I said, okay, I want to be on a pump. What do I have to do? And then they called my doctor and she wrote the prescription, and I kind of did what I wanted to do to manage my diabetes. And I'm very, very happy on my pump. Now, let me give you an idea, if I may again, of what it's like to have a diabetic team, to have diabetic coaches who know their stuff. Near the beginning of the summer, I knew that I was going to be teaching magic camps. Then in here in Texas, I work with a company called Dallas Magic Academy, and we teach magic camps over the summer, week-long magic camps at different schools. And in doing that, I was also talking to some of the reps at Medtronic because as you're researching about pumps, you find out that different pumps have different algorithms. Some pumps are more aggressive than others. And Medtronic has this great, oh, here we go. Now I'm going to give an advertisement for Medtronic. Has this great technology where when you bolus for everything and you take that knowledge and use it. But if your blood sugars start going up a little bit, then the pump has a certain place where it wants you to be, and whether or not you give yourself the insulin, if your blood sugars start going up, it gives you blood sugars to bring you down when you're eating. Basically, that's that's the layman terms. So I like that idea. I like the idea of having that kind of protection. So came to Ariel and I talked to Serene and I said, look, I have this possibility of getting the 780G. And they said a couple of things. The first thing they said was, well, it looks like you're doing very well on the CGM you have. So they were telling me that I'm doing well on the G7. But Ariel also made the point, you're in range 99% of the time. You've figured out how to use the Omnipod to keep yourself in range and healthy. You have no reason to change to a different pump. No reason. What you're doing is working. Why would you want to change it? The wisdom behind that, the 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 wisdom and understanding that Ariel has, because she's gone. How many pumps have you been on, Ariel?
6. I try everything. I have a collection. I
So she
Mhm.
understands what each pump is like. She understands the algorithms. She understands what new pumps are coming out. I'm thinking of the Twist that's already come out. She understands this. And from that understanding and that practical understanding, which is wisdom, wisdom is not knowledge, but wisdom is being able to apply knowledge practically, which is what Ariel can do. Ariel does. She was able to give me the practical wisdom. Stephen, you have no reason to change. What you're doing works unless there's a really real reason to change. Why would you want to? Do you want for those who are watching this right now? That kind of wisdom is not born out of reading about pumps. That kind of wisdom comes from understanding what it means to be a type 1 diabetic and what it means mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and being able to apply that knowledge to help, which helped me make the wise choice of right now sticking with what I've got. Because as much as the technology is nice, there's no technology that's going to make a 1% difference to make sure that I'm 100% in range all the time.
Told you that 1% was compression low, so I don't know. It's not even real anyways. But and that again, that's not everybody's goal. 99%, 100%. He he works hard at this. He has a system that works really well for him. He's been working closely with Serene for counting his carbs and also counting for his protein. And I know that you really appreciated that the Omnipod was tubeless and you liked the G7 sensor with it. And so there were
Yep.
specific key features with Omnipod that worked really well for you. I am a huge advocate for all of the pumps, but it's finding the right fit for the individual. And so sometimes we kind of feel we're given a lot of information and we're like, okay, yes, this is the next best thing, but we don't always. It's the idea that the grass is always greener. Sorry, the grass is always green. Oh, my
The
words.
grass is
The
always
grass is
greener.
always greener on the other side. And so if you have somebody, I just saw what you were doing with your Omnipod and saw how much freedom it gave you because it is really important for you to be tubeless. That is something that helps you feel more free. And so you
Well,
have to understand the individual needs of the person. And you are your best advocate. And so we were just finding the right fit for you. And I still love Medtronic and Tandem, and I love all of them, but finding what works best for you.
so for those of you who may not understand, I am a professional magician, and in communicating with Ariel what I needed. When I perform, I want to be don't want tubes to get in the way. I don't want to have something extra in my pocket where I'm already got seven things in my pocket that what I have to perform for. It's She was able to again apply that wisdom and that knowledge to my situation, and it turns it into wisdom. And I'm in agreement with her. The All of the pumps are really really good. If you are even thinking about getting up on a pump, do so. But um, eh, the, here we go now. Ariel and Serene have done another thing for me, in me. They've inspired me. I see enough type 1 diabetics who who are having serious problems. When you look at type 1 diabetic graphs, there are a lot of people whose graphs are like this. And here, let me get that. Yeah, they're just like that. And they're having lows and highs and lows and highs. And it rips at my heart to see it like that for them. And if there's anything that I can do to help them, I want to. And not only has Ariel inspired and given me hope, she's inspiring me to give other people hope. And I mean, it's like a pebble going to water. Ariel, what you've done is you're that pebble and you've hit my water, and then that pebble, the rings just keep drifting out and out and out. And my hope is that I can help other people see just a little bit of the hope that you've helped me see. And I am looking into what it's going to take to become a diabetic counselor myself, and that's because of y'all's influence in my life. So uh, there's so many reasons why, if anyone is thinking about getting a diabetic coach, don't hesitate. Yeah, you're going to have sometimes when the coach says, you're going to have to stop eating that pizza at 9 p.m. at night and not bolusing for not
Hey,
even
just
pre-bolusing
eat it
for
a
it.
little bit earlier or know how to bolus it.
Yes,
You just
exactly. See, so there's a problem, and now there's the answer. Or
There's strategy. If you really want to eat it at that time, how can we increase that background or do an extended so when the fat hits, or if you can eat it a little bit earlier. But we can work with you with what you want to do. You can do anything.
yes, and so I told you about the first time that I remember being inspired by Ariel. Now let me give you the first time that I now remember being inspired by Ariel, but at the time it was a background. When Ariel and I first started working together, do y'all see these instruments right here in my background, left and right? Those are tubas. At the time when I was first diagnosed as a diabetic, I was in a band that was that was going on tour to South America. Now, I have to admit, I didn't feel ready to go. I didn't feel ready that I could go. I wasn't even on a pump yet. I was still on injections, and I looking at that, going would have been more than I could have handled. But when I told Ariel about that, Ariel got this look in her eyes. The look in her eyes was, that's not what's going to happen. As a type 1 diabetic, this is what I saw. You can do anything, and you can do that trip. And if you want another good reason to have a diabetic coach like Ariel, is because Ariel truly believes and understands that as a type 1 diabetic, you can do anything anybody else does. Hey, Ariel, how many kids have you had?
Four. No more. I can't do any more because of my mental health, not because of diabetes.
But that's not the point. You can do anything any other person can do, right?
Absolutely. Maybe
And
even a little better.
Ariel believes that and will communicate that to you. I've seen some type 1 diabetics who talk about all they do is come home at night and give themselves insulin and eat and go to bed and then go to work the next day. But that's not living life. That's, and Ariel truly believes you can live life to the point where, let me give you an example. Guess what my week is going to be like, Ariel?
What are you
Well,
up to?
I'll give you a couple of examples. So on Monday, I booked the show for October 11th. This morning, I booked a show for next Thursday night. I will be working. So I also work with a company that I deal for. It's not gambling. But they're called Vegas Concepts. On Friday night and Saturday night, I'm going to be dealing for them. On Sunday, I will be doing what I call Magic with the Ministry at a local church here. Next week, I have a gig on Thursday. I have a gig for a wedding on Saturday. Um, and then the week after that, I have two more gigs. You see, I didn't think I would be able to do that again with type 1 diabetes. How wrong I was. And here's the next step is going to for me is going to be learning how to count carbs without numbers. Um, and the next step after that is going to be going on a cruise.
Oh,
And the
yeah.
next step after that is going on vacation. And it's this is all stuff that I didn't think was possible, but now I have hope. I have hope. I that and having hope is something I didn't have when I was on a plane coming back to Texas with needles in my backpack. I
Thank
I
you
have
for
hope.
sharing, Stephen. We really we have fun. I think with diabetes you always have to have a sense of humor too, because there are some things that we can't always be in control of. And so I like to always say that if diabetes were a human, sometimes it's a little jerk because and you just gotta laugh at it sometimes because you can be doing everything right and it's not really in your control. But in those situations, I always think, what am I learning from this? And how can this help me to help others?
So
Because
I want to talk about numbers for a second. This is something that you've taught me not consciously but subconsciously that I also have learned. Um, One of the things that we do as human beings is attach emotional meaning to things. Like for instance, um, I haven't. I think I've been in the 220s and the 230s once in the last 4 or 5 months. But when I got up into the 220s, I attached this emotional thing to it, where I was unhappy about it, and instead of attaching emotion to it, it's like trying to be as detached emotionally from it and say, okay, why did I get that high? What was the reason behind it? What happened before and after? And so what happened was I peaked at 220, 230. And believe me, when I was there, I was angry, I was upset, I was unhappy. And then I came back down and I came back down in the good range. And you see, I that helped me to understand that I don't need to attach the emotion to that number. I need to understand what that number means as far as managing type 1 diabetes, and then take that number and change it.
Mhm,
But I've seen a lot of type 1 diabetics who get emotional about their numbers. So
mhm,
instead of getting emotional about their numbers, have a plan and understand why it's happened, and then continue to work from there. Um, it's having a plan. Ariel said it, and she's drilled that into me. Have a plan, understand. So I just want to encourage anyone out there, anyone who's watching this, don't. This is going to sound it's easy to say, but it hasn't been easy to do. But don't let type 1 diabetes rule you. Sometimes it will. I can tell you there are times when I have been just nailed to the floor about being a type 1 diabetic. Sometimes it sucks that you have to pre-bolus 17 minutes before you eat anything. Sometimes it sucks that you have to have insulin in your body. I've got so right now my Omnipod is on my leg on the left on the thigh, and I like having my pump on my leg. But a couple of months, but maybe a month and a half ago, I had put that on the front of my leg, and it was causing pain in my body. And um, I didn't know if I was going to be able to put that pump back on my left leg in a different spot, but I did. And it's something to where I was able to take the emotion away from it and use a strategy to give myself something that I enjoy. And I like having my pump on my leg.
mhm,
Strategy is important, but having a diabetic team, having a group of people who understand what it means to be diabetic and who understand the emotion and everything like that, and are able to use their wisdom to help you have hope. Gee, am I hitting a theme here, Ariel?
I think it's beautiful to share. And I think in diabetes we're too hard on ourselves and we we live in a lot of guilt because we live between these two numbers that we're told that this is where we're supposed to be and it weighs on us. And I do not have perfect blood sugar. I think perfection with diabetes the goal should never be perfection, it's always progression. And when you're going through a hard time, like yesterday was very frustrating. I ate very boring foods. I don't always eat very boring foods, but yesterday I ate very boring foods and I had a bad infusion set. I changed it, it was still bad. And then I changed it again, and then it's hot outside and it just wiped off my body like it was just
Oh,
maddening. So that day, diabetes was a jerk, and I had to change my infusion set 4 times within 3 hours. And my blood sugar just was a little annoying, very annoying. And it finally came down, and I just took that moment and thought, I did everything I could. What did I learn from this? Maybe even nothing, but I always reflect and think, what did I learn from this? And I thought, well, I'm glad I changed my set when I did. And at one point, I even took a shot because it was sitting high for too long, and it wasn't too high. But those are just all the little thoughts that go through your head. What did I learn from this? And then how do I move forward? Because it's never about being perfect, it's about progression and being kind to yourself and trying to understand what works for you because nobody understands you better than you do.
could you do me a favor? Would you tell them the story about the two men who are eating food?
It's my favorite comic ever. This I tell people about this all the time. So, this is a little comic and have tried to find it, but I gotta find it. But there's two men at a sandwich shop. One man has a working pancreas, no diabetes. The other guy does not have a working pancreas. He has type 1 diabetes, insulin dependent. I mean, you could be type 2 and insulin dependent. So they're both ordering a sandwich. The first guy, he's thinking, okay, do I get turkey, ham? Do I add cheese? Is it provolone, Swiss? And then there are little thought bubbles above each character in the comic. And then you go to the guy without a working pancreas, and he's not thinking about what turkey or ham he's going to put on a sandwich. It's an absolute calculus equation because he's thinking, okay, how much insulin do I have in my body right now? Am I going to be sitting around? Am I going to exercise? Is that a thick or thin piece of bread? Am I going to have to dose for more protein and not just the carbohydrates? So all of the bazillion little things we think about just ordering a sandwich, it takes a lot of mental currency, which is something I like to talk about a lot because you only have so much mental currency in the day. But I also had another patient, and I loved this. He said, you look at a food, and when you've had type 1 diabetes for so long, you do this weird voodoo magic science, and then that's how many units you dose for. Of course, you should be putting carbohydrates. We use carb ratio so that us and our diabetes educators can speak the same language, but we think about a lot just trying to order a simple sandwich or any type of food. There are so many little things we think about. We have to think 1 to 2 hours or more ahead. And so I have lots of little strategies for all the little things that comes up with life. And every once in a while, Steven will stump me and I have to think about it. And he loves it when he stumps me, but I think I love it too because then I learn more. But there's a lot with diabetes and it is not the same any day, every day. I say every day I continue to learn, even though I've had this for 30 years and I do this as a job and I love my job. I get to just hang out with my best friends with type 1 and we get to figure out what works for them and what's not working. But it has been just a wonderful experience working with the people that I work with every day. So I thank you, Stephen, for helping me and learning so much about you as well.
I appreciate that. So do you have any other, you got to have at least one more question you want me to
Well, I
answer.
think you talked about how our rates are less. We work through insurance. That's how we allow that. So it's nice to have insurance cover something if you're paying it anyways. And so we work with all the major insurances and we work through telehealth. And so typically how it works is just if it's so it just works through insurance. And so that's just the cost of a copay. And that was really important to me too. Important for me to make sure that we work with insurances because having accessibility to quality education is one of my professional life missions. And so I'm trying to help increase the diabetes education to anybody who needs it and who would benefit.
Okay. So um I want to echo that because here's something that happened to me with the first educator that I was going to work with. The educator was recommended to me by another person within my medical team. but the person that they recommended wasn't in my insurance. So, and for me as a patient, I didn't understand that. I didn't understand that I needed to check. I thought, okay, I'm being recommended something by my doctor. It must be okay. And the other diabetic professional said to me, it, explained to me the situation, and she's the one who recommended y'all because she knew y'all were in my were in my network.
Mhm.
So once again, I'm reminded I have to be my own best advocate. But I just want people to understand you really do have to be your own best advocate. You have to, as best as possible, navigate insurance and health. Don't let somebody else decide for you what your what your health is going to be or who you're going to work with. Make sure that you're able to make that decision yourself.
You pick your team.
Yep.
That's a personal decision and finding what works best for you, even if it's just personality wise. And I know that geographically sometimes you have limitations, but I think it's really important to be able to speak with your care team and have them listen and understand you and feel like it's a two-way street because that's how we figure out and personalize what works best for you.
So I have to say, I was very happy to let my endocrinologist see that my A1C was 5.7, and my A1C right now, folks, is 5.9. I'm annoyed. I know that sounds crazy, but I'm annoyed. Um, and yeah, that's a
That
little
number is personal too, finding what works because you want to just keep you safe. That's what's always looking at the variation, looking at your lows, your highs of finding what's
yes.
best for your management. So, because I
I
know
understand.
some people would be like, I'd kill for a 5.9, it's just finding what works best for your management and keeps you safe.
I Yeah, and I want people to understand. Um, I'm not trying to like lord my. I don't like lording my numbers. I'm not trying to like ha 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 or anything like that. It's not that. I
Mhm.
know what I want, where I want my management to be, and I'm
Mhm.
going to do my best to keep it there. I'm going to do my best to manage my numbers, to manage my food, to manage the amount of insulin I take. I'm going to do my best to be as be as true to what I want to be healthy as. That's one of the things that Ariel is starting to get through my thick skull. You see, I have one right here. It's this idea that I need to be. So one thing she said was, she said, "Well, having key lime pie for your birthday," and it's starting to drift into me a little bit that there's more to life than numbers. Not to say that I'm going to be unhealthy. No, I'm not. I'm going to do my best to be healthy. But once again, this is her wisdom showing through. You have to be able to live a good life. You have to be able to live a good life. And that's another thing that having a, a diabetic counselor will help you to do. It'll help you to live a better life. Um, I can't recommend y'all more highly. I cannot recommend y'all more highly. I cannot recommend y'all more highly. They say in entertainment, it's good to do things in odds, which is why did that in three.
Mhm. Nice.
Sorry, folks. There's my odd sense of humor coming out. I apologize.
Well, I appreciate your time and I have really enjoyed getting to know your personality and strategizing what works best for you with your diabetes management. And thank you for your time today with this interview and thank you for just sharing a piece of yourself and your experiences.
Well, and thank you, Ariel, for helping me, for not only giving me wisdom, but if people can't see, this is not a I tell you what to do relationship. The relationship is very much give and take. It's very much It's more a relationship of equals than you could possibly imagine, and it doesn't mean that I have an equal amount of knowledge to Ariel. I don't. I don't at all. But the way that her team treats me uh, helps me to helps us to have a back and forth relationship, and I really appreciate you as well. Thank you.
Well,
I'm gonna give you all one more story, okay? Because and this is for anybody out there who has a diabetic team. If you have a diabetic counselor, here's generally what happens when you have a diabetic counselor. You go into your session, you go into your talk, and you talk with them about everything you can possibly talk about. You know, you have the things you want to cover, or at least I have the things I want to cover when I go into a to a session. We talk about it, and then you have just enough time to say goodbye, see you later, that kind of thing. I want to encourage people to do this at some point in time with your doctor or your diabetic counselor or someone in your health journey. Stop and say, how are you doing? And and ask them how they're doing. Care about them enough, and they know you care about them, but care about them enough to ask them, what's going on with you? How can I help you? They may not be, there may not be any way that you can ever help them, but I promise you, if you do that, they will feel more appreciated because you're showing you care about them.
and you have asked us, and I've really appreciated that too. It kind of caught me back, took me back because I thought, oh, uh, how am I doing? I wasn't really thinking on
Yeah.
that side. Well, I appreciate that. Thank
So
you again
you're
for your
welcome.
time. And it's always such a pleasure talking to you and getting to know you and what you're working on and our strategies and all the things you're going to do as a magician and as a dad and the places you're going to go. And we can always strategize. And whatever you want to do, diabetes is not going to hold you back. We're
Amen,
going to,
sister. Preach it.
that's right. That's
Preach
right.
it. Seriously. Thank you for letting me do this. As much as Ariel may have wanted to do an interview like this, I also wanted to, and I'm hoping this will make a difference in other people's lives.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Talk to you later. Talk to you
Bye.
later, everyone out there. Bye bye.